So we talked about what the kind of reaction that these people who have to endure these performances, what it's like for them. But I'm curious, what is it like for these weird foreigners when they come and start off their tour in Omaha,
Jonathan,
Nebraska?
You had a chance on this tour to play some out of the way places, and Jonathan's here from Portugal, and you got to do a little bit of seeing parts of America most people who are touring America don't get to see. So what was that experience like for you?
It was really psychedelic.
Psychedelic?
Yeah. Also because of the way that it's like hours and hours of driving, and that's the scale of US is really something that you're not used to.
Yeah.
Coming from countries in Europe or smaller countries like Portugal.
Right.
The scale was huge, and the natural landscape was huge also. And in the middle of all that, finding specific places where to play this kind of music was really strange and almost impossible.
Yeah.
And the experience of being there is really interesting in the context of like a strange psychogeography made almost without a compass, just driving and finding places, dots in the middle of the Midwest, you know.
Wow.
So that was really nice.
You're staring at cows and farmhouses all day and stopping off in convenience stores with morbidly obese people, and then all of a sudden you're in some crazy place with a bunch of people smoking dope and waiting for you to play music.
Yeah, that's strange, seeing some deer hunters and some gas stations with trucks, and after 2 hours or 5 hours or 10 hours of driving, you found your venue, and that's pretty much something.
I feel like it all collided in Milwaukee, just out of nowhere in the middle of this set from Lova Nova, some of the people that are from the Violent Femmes live band. This guy gets up and he looks like he fell out of a tree stand. Like he really looks like somebody we saw in the truck stop all day. He just walks up there on with a saxophone and just rips it, and that's kind of like seeing the White Buffalo or something. Like you have a sign that you know you're on the good path and everything is happening for a reason.
So tell me about the initial like foundings of Radon, and how did you get going? Like was it just sort of come together in 10 years?
Well, we kind of bloomed out of the whole pre-internet home taping thing and trading cassette tapes through the mail, and I guess going to Europe in 1999 for the first time for me, that was kind of a changing point, and I had a really clear idea of what I wanted to do, but it was just kind of immediate. Almost everybody that has been a mainstay of the collective came together just within a few months. The first time we went for a Sikhara show in Europe, Nico from Rip It and the Solar Skeletons, he was standing there holding a sign that said Sikhara, and now we still do things with him. A few months later, we met Steve McKay. Vinny, I know from Maximum Rock and Roll, Book Your Own Life from 1993. And we kind of just immediately had this whole gang of people from all over, and we were missing a few key components, and it took us like another year or two to find the guys in Portugal and the crew in Portland, Oregon, Noah Mickens, and it just went together immediately, and we got to work. And 10 years later, our work is done.
And what's amazing, about someone like Steve McKay, who literally just spent his last, decade, last I'd say like 7 or 8 years just touring around with the Stooges, is that guy will play with everybody who piques his interest. Like he'll go to Turkey and just find some kids and make a record with them, and stuff like that's really inspirational, I think.
Well, at the time that Radon was founding, he was in retirement basically, and through a small group of people and a KFJC radio station, we came to do a show together, and then just it became a tradition as whenever the Radon people would come through town, they would do a set with Steve at KFJC, but that was, maybe the first year, and then we obviously needed to turn this into a live band, and immediately we had the birth of Steve McKay's own band for the first time in his life and his first record, and then all of his old bands just turned up out of nowhere. Like they didn't bring him out of retirement. Like he came out of retirement, and the second he did, then they needed him again.
Right.
So it was like everything happened in a perfect order.
Cool. Well, Jonathan, tell us some of what's going on in your part of the world with Portugal and United Scum Sound Clash and your label.
Yeah. Well, this year we have some new records coming out, a bunch of them, and some new collabs. This new United Scum Sound Clash, I think it's pretty much something that we're waiting to put out with much energy, and because it took us 3 years for us to make this, and he has the usual suspects: Sam, Jason, Dan, Steve, Vinny, and it took some years to put all that together and to re-record, to do overdubs, to edit, and now we have something that we're really happy and we want to put out in the next months. But after that, we are already working on the next United Scum, so the version 3, the volume 3, and so we have plenty of records come out in the next months and year. Actually.
Cool. Well, we love those records.
Yeah.
Do you guys get to play out a lot in Europe?
Yeah, we kind of play a lot in Portugal. We have a strong collective for many years, and we play together in different bands. Actually, me and Gustavo, we have different bands together, and each of us also has separate things. So we actually are playing every weekend with some kind of band. I don't know, this weekend can be this one, the other another. So we are always busy playing, and within the collective, we are really putting out a lot of stuff.
It seems to be coincidentally, whenever I've come to one of these sort of radon road bases with the people we're working with, I happen to arrive right around a time when they just happen to be escalating their own activities. I'm by no means coming and starting this. I just show up right when right in the good time. And
You're the fuse.
you know, one of the first things we did when I arrived in Portugal and we all met was start the sessions that would become the first United Scum Sound Clash, which also was a model for our future recording work. But then we would be checking our email in the studio, and we would see where we're both talking to the same people. And one of the first things was Damo Suzuki was coming. And so we all played together backing him. So just from within a few weeks after we met, we were recording an album. We were in a live band with Damo Suzuki, and all of the Radon bands came. We immediately had Ovo, Steve McKay, Kundahola all came to Portugal, and these guys' own activity was increasing at the same time.
See, that's what I mean. In essence, there's so much, a lot of bands that kind of escalate into a certain point and route themselves via, a network of booking and stuff. Like some of these bands have to plan their lives a year in the future and just do these tours and come back and they're done, and they don't really get to interact the way you guys do, who are just constantly churning around the whole globe, and then you're running into Damo Suzuki and you're running into all these people who are doing exactly the same thing. And I don't think a lot of people realize that you can do that. you can go ahead and do that. It's
I think for
a novel idea.
For some people, that's kind of as simple as that, where they just all of a sudden think they can do that. And if you don't have a house and a car and things, and if you're willing to give those up, you can just do it. But that's really it's just hit a mental point where you're like, oh, I can do that, and then you do it. And once you start doing it, it's easier to keep going than it is to stop.
Yeah. Well, I've known you a bunch of years now, and you've always just been emailing me from some bizarre point of the globe. And Scott was my guide in Paris too when I went out there for June for that Group Douay broadcast. And what did I make you do, Scott? I made you go to the Eiffel Tower.
We reenacted the entire "A View to a Kill" video by Duran Duran.
We did do that, but thanks for putting up with my tourist route that I had to get out of my system at least and take me to the Eiffel Tower. So I'm sure it was exciting, but I appreciate it.
Yeah, I dug through the trash outside of where we exited the Eiffel Tower and brought back some food to the squat.
Yeah, you could have met some collaborators up there too. You never know, Duran Duran or something. Well, anyway, immediate plans for the future, both of you. What's coming up next? You've got the Supa label, right, Jonathan? And you put out some records by like Hototo Gizu and some folks.
We put out Hototo Gizu, and we put out with Radon, the first USS, and a bunch of other records. If it's easy to go, it's supa.org. We have a bunch of other stuff coming out now. We have He and the Macumbas. It's a project of voodoo dub based on voodoo rhythms and with lots of low end and bass. and we have a bunch of stuff coming out. And mainly, we are now concerned on putting out the next USS-2 machine gun, and working on the USS-3. So.
And you've also, I should mention, you're kind of making some music with Raz Messenai, aka Badawi, and you're exploring some crazy catacombs in Portugal and from the Roman times.
Summer, we
making some music for along with that.
Underground, in medieval tunnels.
Deep dub.
Yeah, deep dub, recording some sounds.
Cool.
And working on some stuff that will come out in the near future.
Yeah, well, check out SOOPA, SOOPA.org, correct? Yeah. And how about you? What's going on with the near future? You're going to Taiwan tomorrow, I know.
I'm off to Taiwan to haunt the chapels, and I'm moving really into a pretty intense period of activity with Sikhara. That's kind of my main thing. Radon as a collective was always an idea to get everybody moving, to get activities going for them, and now all of our key people are running something of their own, and I think it's kind of time to put it on pause. So my idea for the 10th anniversary is we'll stop our activity as the Radon Collective for 10 years, and 10 years from today, we're going to restart and do it for 10 more years.
Do some scouting for some 10 years, or just kind of hang out?
No, everybody will be working on their same projects and still overlapping with each other, but the activity as far as specifically being Radon or doing releases is on hold for 10 years. Wow.
Cool. Well, tell everybody where they can find out more online info for Radon. There's a Radon Studio site.
I think that Sikhara.org and SteveMckay.org, SUPA.org,
they should all tie
all
in.
the individual things just wrap up together.
Cool. Well, thanks for making us part of your 10th anniversary party. It's always fun to have you on the show.
Thanks for making your way down.
All right. And thank you, Jonathan.
Thanks.
This is WFMU. We're going to hear something actually from the new Sikhara coming up next.